for our last question, we want to really explore some of the disagreements out there. So we've been talking for 40 minutes or so about Plan B. And we started off with, you know, is this great mobilization really possible? Everybody agreed. Could some people join the circle and talk about some of the things, some of the reasons why they don't think that great mobilization is happening, or that we should do something else? So let's hear some good, honest disagreement and arguments. Okay.
Well, one disagreement that someone had earlier when we're talking about this was that they thought that the movement should be a more grassroots movement where it starts with the community. But personally, I think I'm once again Hazel Henderson, and I'm from Great Britain, best country in the world. Anyway, so I think the movement should start from the more influential people in the society, like community leaders, like lawmakers, like lawyers, because when people see that even those people are doing it, then they will think to themselves that, well, if the leaders are doing it, then there must be some point to that, and if they're not ashamed to say to people that we should follow these points in the Great Mobilization, then I think the everyday people, the common man, will look at that and say there must be something good about this, and they will research into it and maybe become more involved. So personally, I think it should start from a top-down process.
I think I was the one who said that it should start from a community perspective, because who is going to vote for these elected officials if the mass populations don't grow up believing in that?
Well, if the officials actually do practice themselves, then the people will see, and these are good points in the book. So I think if people see that they're doing these good things and advocating saving the environment and preserving biodiversity, I don't think the voters would say, oh, I think biodiversity is bad, I'm not going to vote for that guy. So.
Well, I mean, I have a sort of a problem with the realization of it when, I mean, everyone in this room, in the circle, including me, Rick and Buxton, thinks that all the ideas are good. I mean, we all want sustainability, we all want a better world that's going to be preserved, but once you start getting down to the fine details of it and outlining stuff, just like was done with the Earth Charter, I'm very passionate about animals. I think all animals, from those in captivity, those in the wild, should be protected. But we had a lot of trouble with sort of figuring that out, because when you start getting into game animals, to me, I think that there needs to be a definite protection of game animals and endangered species. But my Inuit friend here would, we have a lot of disagreements on that, because, I mean, as he can attest, or she whatever, that in their culture, you know, the consumption of those wild animals, many which are now nearing endangerment, you know, that's part of their culture. But to me, it's something that's in danger, and I want to protect it. But I mean,
I think Greenland's outside of that bound that you talk about with the endangered animals, especially considering that we've hunted whales, we've hunted reindeer, musk ox for over 4,000 years, and the population of those animals has not dwindled. We take very good use of the resources that we use, especially the natural resources. And I think when you say that, it's attacking our people, our heritage, how we provide for ourselves. And I don't know if that's fair, seeing as there are many things that you do yourself that you need to look at as well.
well, I mean, I think if we're on like a global front, are going to say, you know, whaling is bad. You know, a lot of countries would agree with that. But then yet your country, you know, is trying to, you know, be on board with a lot of sustainable issues, but then you guys still went to whale. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be worked out. And I'm not, you know, trying to go against your culture, but I think that those cultural clashes are what is really going to stop the Great Mobilization from actually happening to the best extent possible is because there are differing opinions on those issues. You know, once you start working with a group of diverse people, these things are going to arise.
But do people really think it's going to be, you know, Inuits of Greenland hunting whale that's making our world, like our global system, go down the drain, or is it a lot of American cultural things? I mean, I really doubt that a group of Inuits from Greenland are causing more harm than, like, I don't know. I don't know how my person feels about this, but I'm assuming they'll probably agree. I don't know.
It comes down to the fact of, like, in the case of the Inuits, now I don't know have the figures on what their populations look like of the whales there, but it's been shown that the Japanese are currently whaling, and it's depleting the populations of the whales there. So to say, you know, a global stand of no more whaling, well, you don't agree with that. You know, now if we did a blanket, sort of a blanket, you know, blanket policies don't work everywhere, and that's where you're going to have a lot of these issues come up.
I think that's comparing apples and oranges. We are not whaling in mass numbers like the Japanese do. We're whaling to provide for our families. None of that is used in excess to provide for anything else but for our families. So I don't know if that's a good comparison. I see where you're coming from about that, but I don't know if you can compare that straight up.
I think it's kind of an issue of culture versus money, and like the illegal bushmeat trade in Africa, that's a problem, but it's not the native cultures that are so much causing the problem. It's people funding the meat trade.
Yes, I agree with the Inuit lady. Because what I see is that they're not whaling because they want to sell the excess whale for money. They're whaling because it's their way of life, and that's how they get their food. And the Japanese that you suggested whale because they're trying to gain financially from that, and that's why you need to create an ethical marketplace.
Well, no, I mean,
where,
I'm not disagreeing with their practices. I'm saying once you start bringing in different cultures, you create a lot of red tape, and something that should be simple of no whaling becomes, well, no whaling except for exclusion A, B, C, D, and E. And then when you start doing that and start actually trying to hash out a policy that makes everyone else happy, you know, that, you know, has, you know, that this thing works here but it doesn't work here, and tailoring everything to make the best possible decision, I mean, that's a lot of legislative red tape, and it's going to slow down the process.
I think we need to change the way we think, where for the Inuit people, because it's their way of life, that would be fine. But if you're whaling for money, then you, instead of being rewarded with financial gain, you should be punished. I don't think the Japanese should be able to gain and say, we're whaling just because the Inuits are also whaling. But they're using the whales for two different reasons.
Thank you very much.